Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back. Droid Life Show episode 91. Lost my thought there. I'm your host, Kellen. It's September 4th. With me, Tim. Tim, say hi.
Hey guys, how's it going? Tim here.
So, on today's show, we had this crazy week. So, IFA is going on in Berlin. And so, I feel like every company that you care about announced a smartwatch this week, or at least let us get their hands on one that they announced a year ago, or months ago, or a week ago, or whatever. Anyways, they're all official now. Tim actually just published his Galaxy Note 5 review as we're kicking the show off. So we're going to run through that as well. Moto X Pure pre-orders are up. We might have a Nexus event soon, which is kind of weird. There's a whole bunch of stuff to talk about. So let's kick this off though with your Note 5 review. So I mean the ink is not even dry on this thing. So it's like a digital joke, right?
Yeah.
So anyways, you just reviewed the Galaxy Note 5. So you just want to kind of run through overview, maybe your favorite things, anything you don't like. Is it the phone of the year? I don't know, wherever you want to go with that.
Yeah, you touched on some good points. Phone of the year. Yeah, pretty much basically in my intro, I say, you know what? It's a darn good candidate for phone of the year. I mean, really, there's not much you can take away from the device except for maybe lack of micro SD and the lack of a removable battery, something that the Galaxy Note 4 had. Although the Galaxy Note 4, it just, when it kind of came down to it, that phone just didn't feel like a phone of the year. This one, it's like a bigger Galaxy S6 with better specs. It's got 4 gigs of RAM, the same crazy 16 megapixel camera with OIS, an insane 5.7-inch QHD Super AMOLED display. I mean, there's pretty much nothing wrong with the device. The only thing that I really have a beef with, I think, the fact that you can take the S Pen, stick it in backwards, and completely break your $800 device seems a little stupid to me. A lot of people would argue with me, and that's totally cool. But I think Samsung should have been looking a little forward instead of just saying, oh, we put it in our manual, if anyone would ever read it, that you probably shouldn't stick it in backwards. But, no one reads those things. I mean, it's possible that you have a kid playing with your S Pen, they stick it in backwards or whatever. I mean, the chances are that you won't stick the S Pen in backwards, but it shouldn't even be like a possibility for you to do it. So other than my S Pen having troubles, not my S Pen having troubles, but other people's S Pen having troubles.
Right, you weren't dumb enough to go, does it really get stuck in there?
Yeah, no. That would have been pretty bad. I'm sure I would have been S-canned. But yeah, either way, I think it's a really cool phone. I'm waiting to, before I go phone of the year, we have to get the new Nexus devices in from Google, LG, and Huawei, if that is what's coming here later September. And that's about it. I mean, killer camera, killer display, good battery life, performance was insane. I said on last week's show, I was like, I think Samsung actually figured out how to make Android not lag with TouchWiz, and that's octa-core 64-bit Exynos processor with 4 gigs of RAM. So that's what you need. Moving forward, if a phone doesn't have that, expect it to be janky. Other than that, it's a killer phone. Anyone that picks this device up, they'll be happy for sure.
Yeah, so I spent a week or so with the S6 Edge Plus, and I couldn't get that review done fast enough so I could move away from it, because Samsung also sent me a Note 5 to test for a little while too while you were doing your review. And so yeah, I was just so excited to fire up the Note 5, get everything set up on there, and yeah, I used it for the better part of the week. It really is that good. The back, that curve, just that subtle curve they did at the back makes such a difference on a big phone in hand, just usability wise. The pen, I don't. We talked about this a little bit last week, how we're not really the big pen users, but they've improved that as well. Yeah, the reverse thing is stupid, and they should have thought about that ahead of time. I don't think it's going to end up being that big of a deal. I know we made a big deal out of it, and all these dumb media people were doing it to test because they're dumb media people. But I don't know that many people are really going to do it. I don't think it's going to be this giant conspiracy. But otherwise, I would kind of agree with you. It's up there for phone of the at this point. I think I would say it's better than the Galaxy S6, just because I think I'm one of the only people maybe, but I've just had such a bad experience with my T-Mobile S6 since it's had a couple of updates that I can't even use it anymore. But the Note 5, I haven't had any issues, and I was using the AT&T model, and yeah, it's fast, feels great. The camera's amazing, it's powerful, it looks sweet. Yeah, I have no real complaints there.
Yeah, so you're not the only one. My Verizon Galaxy S6 recently got the Android 5.1.1 update, and now whenever I get like a long list of notifications and I go to clear all, the notifications stay in the notification bar, and it's like a total jank fest. Like, what the hell is that? I have to restart the device, and of course they go away, but it's like, what? I mean,
Okay, so you're seeing those issues too then?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's slow, it's buggy is what I would call it, and jank.
I mean, like the keyboard just like freezes up on mine now.
Mine won't even pop up sometimes. Like I go into Hangouts, and if Hangouts even loads, then the keyboard takes a half minute to load up finally. It's like, okay, I'm over this. So I stopped using it.
So it's got to be that 5.1.1 update then.
I guess so.
Because that's two different carrier models. Anyways, that's the S5 or the S6. The Note 5 so far, and it's already running 5.1.1, and I ran into zero issues.
Yeah, in terms of performance and software, there's no real issues. Like even TouchWiz is good, I'd say. So I mean that's saying quite a bit for me.
Yeah. Display, I'm with you. This display, Samsung, for the last 3 years, they've kind of been killing the display department, but the display on this thing is nuts. You mentioned in your review that part of that is just because there's no bezel on the sides, and there's no bezel. Like, you're not exaggerating. Like, it's crazy how thin the side bezels are and how good that display is.
Yeah, it makes you look forward to the future. I mean, if this device, looks so good, feels so good, performs so well, I mean, the Galaxy Note 6 should be pretty darn spectacular. And who knows, maybe they'll give the people what they want and at least put in a micro SD slot. I can't imagine they'll ever bring back removable batteries. But at the same time, I mean, a micro SD is not that hard to throw in. So we'll see.
Yeah. I feel like they're going to have to put the SD slot back in. Like, they
don't have to, but they might. I think they should.
Don't have to. Apple's obviously never done it. Yeah. But even Google came back, because Google was like, they're stupid and they're confusing and we don't want them in our Nexus phones. Right. And while they haven't necessarily put them back in a Nexus phone, they built support back into Android M. So they're bringing it back. Google realized people want them. Motorola, the Moto X Pure Edition has one, and they went for a couple of years in the regular Moto X without one, and now it's back. And HTC's been doing it. LG's still doing it. I kind of feel like Samsung will give in, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
Let's see what else from your review. So Samsung Pay, we haven't been able to test it, but it's got to be super winner, right? You can pay with it everywhere. So
yeah, it's got to be legit, right? I mean, my intention is to absolutely use the heck out of it once I'm able to load my cards onto it. So, I mean, the fact that it is built in and it will have support once Samsung Pay is totally official and launched everywhere, then, I mean, it should be great. I don't see anything that would restrict you from using it really wherever you want.
Right. So, yeah. So Galaxy Note 5, your sort of final word on it is what?
10 out of 10 would buy again.
Nice.
I mean, it's a solid phone. I actually plan on picking up one of my own just so I can have it. I think it's a good one. Put that bad boy on some type of payment plan. I don't know. It's a really good phone. I think it's the phone I would use over all the other ones from 2015. I would ditch S6, ditch S6 Edge. Maybe I might switch back and forth between S6 Edge because I like the small, I like the S6 Edge quite a bit, but no M9 for me, no G4. I would just stick to the Note 5.
No.
Yeah. The Note Colt's back. Full action.
Note Colt is back. It was kind of gone for a year or so there.
Yeah, well, the Note 4 or the Note 3, Note 4 doesn't necessarily help the case with the faux leather and all this other crap. So, I mean, the fake metal-looking plastic band around the side. I mean, it was just an ugly, terrible phone. And TouchWiz was at the peak of garbage.
Oh, yeah.
So
Samsung's doing some good things these days, thankfully.
Thankfully. They learned the error of their way.
They did. All right, so let's talk about all the smartwatch craziness that went down this week. So, again, IFA's going down, and there was a report a week ago that said everyone's going to unveil new watches or something like that. And they all sort of did, although a couple of them weren't necessarily new. But anyways, so Moto 360, now official. in 2 sizes. You can pre-order it now, customize the hell out of it through Moto Maker. Kind of crazy. Starting point of $299, right? Yeah, $299. So not cheap. Huawei Watch finally available for pre-order, and we talked about this last week, but like this thing was announced in February and then it disappeared forever, and there was rumors they were just redoing it over and over again. Anyways, they've redone it. It's now available for pre-order. Is it starting at $349?
$349 starting price up to $799.
Okay, so obviously not cheap. Looks amazing. We'll talk more about it in a second. LG announced the gold version of the Watch Urbane. And we're not just talking gold color, like actual gold version with an alligator band and stuff. And it's $1,200.
The Lux.
I can't kind of. That's right. Yeah. Well, yeah. It's the Watch Urbane Lux or Deluxe. Lux. Yeah.
Lux.
It. I just, not to just completely crap all over the Watch Urbane, but I do not like that watch. And I keep seeing all these people say like, it's so classy and it looks like a real watch. No, it doesn't. It's giant and ugly and polished and gross. Like it does not look like a real watch. It's so terrible.
I feel like it's a watch where someone who doesn't like really wear watches all that often would see kind of like a really big shiny watch and be like, ooh, that looks like a real watch. Right. Like, no, that thing is atrocious. It's gaudy. It's got to go.
It is so bad.
Some people like that stuff, but whatever.
They do. And not that I'm like this super watch like nerd or anything, but it's just far from being what a classic watch should look like. So anyways, $1,200 for gold. They only made like 50 or 500 maybe. 500, and they're all individually numbered and stuff. So if you want it as like a collector's item, feel free to fork out $1,200.
Collector's item that's completely worthless down the road. Good job.
Yes, exactly. So then outside of Android Wear, Samsung at the beginning of the week announced the Gear S2 and Classic officially. So they teased them. Now they announced them. Then we went hands-on with them. And so those, we'll get to those in just a second. So let's see, where should we start? Oh, and then finally, Android Wear news, back to that, now works on iOS. So Google released Android Wear app to iOS. The Watch Urbane is technically the only watch that's supposed to work with it. And then the new Moto 360 will, and the Huawei Watch will, and the new Zen Watch 2 will. But if you already own a watch and you have an iPhone and it's been updated to version 1.3, you could connect it to iPhones. It's not fully featured, whatever. We sort of expected that. But that's interesting because Apple people can buy Android Wear devices if they want. So, all right, let's go back to the top. So Moto 360, I had some time with it. They announced it. It's official. We ran a poll on which Android or new smartwatch everyone was excited about. And it's Moto 360 hands down. Everyone's super excited about it. So it had leaked a bunch. We'd seen pictures of it and on people's wrists and all that stuff. So there's not really that many surprises. It's looks like the same as last year with the flat tire, but it does have lugs. So it has more of a traditional watch appearance, still wireless charging. They did go with a Qualcomm processor. So at least it's not a TIO map from 2009. There are 2 sizes now. 42 millimeter and a 46 millimeter. And then there's also a women's line, which is based off of the 42 millimeter. They kept telling me there's up to like 400 combinations in Moto Maker for this thing. So you can basically make the most customized watch ever. You can customize the bezel, the whole body frame, watch bands, watch face. And it goes from like gold to rose gold to dark metal to silver. Like it's actually kind of crazy how many different options you have. What else? Has Wi-Fi, obviously. It's IP67 dust and water resistant, which is not waterproof, by the way. Gorilla Glass. It's still an LCD, so they didn't go AMOLED. And so because of that, they did put in that stupid flat tire thing. People don't care. I don't really think about the flat tire that much. Like our poll clearly shows that everyone is more interested in this watch than any other watch. So
yeah, things always tend to get a little blown out of proportion on the old interwebs.
Yes, they do. Let's see. Motorola did say, though, that because they added those lugs, it allowed them to up the battery capacity. So the 46 millimeter, which is essentially the same size as last year's model, now has a 400 milliamp hour battery. And they said that can last up to 2 days if you leave ambient mode off, which is nice. I mean, it was barely a day last year, so.
Yeah, I kind of get the feeling that that's a total lie, but we'll see. I mean, once we actually, I mean, all these companies say, oh, full day, full 2 to 3 days. Like, oh, give me a break. Like, I mean, I don't know about you, but after I received the Android 1.3 update for the Moto 360, I wore it for about 2 hours last night. I took it off the charger, 100%, went to IKEA, came back like hour and a half later. I was at 64%. I was like, what the hell? It wasn't even connected to the phone.
Yeah.
And so something like Android Wear, Moto 360, like there's some huge major issue going on when it comes to battery life. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's terrible. So, I mean, until we get actual units in hand, we see how battery life is, I won't believe anything anyone tells me.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. It does say up to 2 of mixed use. Like whatever the hell mixed use means. Right? Does that mean you're just not using it? I have no idea. So, yeah, we'll see. But if it lasts a full day, that'd be awesome. If you could get 2 days, that would be really great. But
just not possible.
Yeah, I mean, either way, you have to. If you're into a smartwatch, you just have to accept the fact you have to charge it as much as you charge your phone, basically. So, all right, so that's available now, pre-order, starting at $299. So it's a little more expensive than last year's, but they've kind of upgraded a bunch of the stuff in it. So I don't know. We don't know when it's coming out officially, but like mid-September probably. So if you pre-order now, it'll ship soon. I think the most expensive version is like $430, and that's if you go 46 millimeter, all metal band, and gold. I think I tried to do it, and I was like, I'm not going to pay $430 for this thing. So
I mean, yeah, in terms of looks, it's a good looking smartwatch. It reminds me a lot of last year's Moto 360, even though it's got the lugs and the dial turned up to that 2 o'clock position. I think it looks pretty good. Actually, the more I've seen it, the more it's grown on me, especially some of I love what you can do in Moto Maker, how you can kind of get the, you can choose between the chamfered or that like chiseled, whatever the hell they're calling it. But
what are they calling?
On the
bezel, the micro neural
on the bezel. It looks pretty good. I'm thinking like gold casing with the black leather band or something. I don't know. I mean, you could really deck that thing out and make it look sick. So.
Yeah, so they let me customize one for a review unit. And yeah, I went gold with the gold neural, and then I just put like a brown band on it. So we'll see what it looks like.
That's hot. It'll be hot. I mean, and you can still put third-party bands on there.
Yeah, and they made it easier. So they added this little like switch to swap bands out. So it's funny, right? All these smartwatches came out, and they all said, yeah, bands are interchangeable, but it was a pain in the ass. Like everyone had to go buy tools to do it, right?
Well, everyone learned how bands have always been on watches. It's always been a pain. That's why you always take them to a jeweler to do it. But now every tech guy who's like, I'm a total do-it-yourselfer, they want to do it themselves, and they actually learn how difficult it can be.
Yeah, I just think it's funny that all of these years, anyone that's ever made a watch, it was a pain in the ass. You had to go to a jeweler or buy tools, right? And all this first rounds of smartwatches come out, same deal. And then Apple comes out with a watch, and they're like, here, look, we created this like quick release system so you can swap bands. And everyone went,
oh my God.
No shit. Yeah. I mean, it's just crazy. And so Motorola is doing that as well. There's like this little spring switch in there. You can just pop them right out and move on about your day. So yeah, you can swap them much easier. And that was another reason they added lugs, actually, is because if they move the band out, they could add the little switch in and make it easier. I don't know that I fully believe that's why, but that was one of the reasons they gave.
It's a cool little design. I mean, I saw it for the first time during your little walkthrough tour thing, and I was like, oh man, that is like totally genius.
Yeah.
So
it's pretty nice.
Yeah. Plus one to them for doing that.
Yeah. They also explained the 2 o'clock position. It totally makes sense. They said like, I don't have it on, but like
when your wrist. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like when your wrist, like if you bend your wrist at all, instead of it jabbing into your hand, like now it's up there and it doesn't jab in as much. Or they just said like if you're like leaning on a table or a counter or anything, it's not like jabbing into your wrist. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense. And Huawei did the same thing.
Huawei said the exact same thing. They're like, it just makes sense, like when you hold your wrist up, you don't want to have to twist your right-handed wrist or whatever to get to the 3 o'clock, and it's just easier for 2 o'clock. So
yeah, it is much easier. So they did that. They defended their black bar again. And I used the Moto 360 all last year. It was the watch I decided to make like my personal watch. The black bar never bothered me once. Like it looks fine. So it's back, and it is what it is. And I'm with you. The more I see the Moto 360, and the more like I spend some time with it, the more I'm kind of like, all right, I'm down with this. Even though like during all the leaks and stuff, I wasn't fully sure that I was buying in, but I like it now. So Motorola also announced the Moto 360 Sport. It's coming sometime later, like in November potentially, and it's basically their sport watch, and it's got a GPS, and it's got a special display that when you're outside, like it basically just like absorbs reflection and makes it so you can still see it when it's really bright out. And then if you go indoors into a dark situation, it gets brighter kind of. They said it's a first of its kind display. So that should be interesting. They didn't say pricing, anything, but it runs Android Wear and it's got a GPS. So look for that.
It looks kind of cool, I must say.
Yeah. So a couple of the people at the event I was at were wearing live models, and it's a pretty nice looking sport watch. Kind of reminds me of like Garmin Forerunners and things like that. It looks nice, but they wouldn't let us play with any of the live models. All they would let us take pictures of was the like dummy units. So
oh, sweet.
That's unfortunately all we have pictures of. So
yeah, that white one looks pretty hot.
Yeah, and that's what most of the guys there were wearing was the white one, and it did look nice. So
yeah,
so that's coming. Let's see. So Huawei finally made the Huawei Watch official, and you can pre-order it. And it's $349. And you spent some time with it. Do you want to talk about just kind of maybe what they said about it? Why? I don't know if they talked about why it took so long or anything.
Yeah, so they never exactly mentioned why it took them all the way from February until now to actually unveil it and give it to us. But they did say that this watch is not made for the tech nerds or early adopters or anyone who is short on the stacks. Because I mean, this thing, it's priced accordingly to them for the materials they use. I mean, they spared no expense when it came to what they use. You know, the leather they put into this thing, or the sapphire crystal. I mean, they took a designer who was working for some Swedish watchmaker. I forget which one right off, but he then got moved to the Fossil, which is like he worked for their parent company. Either way, big time watch designer. And so they brought him on, and he's like, he had like this accent. He's like, I just wanted to make something beautiful, you know, like, I was like, well, I mean, you did a pretty good job, man. But I mean, it's so expensive. $800 for the all gold. That's with the gold bands and the gold casing and all that. I mean, it's super expensive, but you know, in that same time, I mean, the display 400 by 400, so it has a super high pixel density when compared to, say, I think the Moto 360 is 300 by 300,
or it might be 360 by 360. They upped it a little bit this year.
Okay.
But yeah, the Huawei Watch kind of kills everyone in that department.
Yeah, so in that department, their watch faces look way better. You know, when they, you know, sometimes at first it was sort of hard, especially on the OG 360. Some of the watch faces that try to emulate kind of like those classic timepieces, like movements and complications and like skeleton stuff like that, it doesn't look good because it's pixelated. But on the Huawei watch, all their watch faces, I mean, look really good. They look crisp, and it's almost hard to tell from certain angles that it's actually like a digital face you're looking at. So seriously,
I think, like, if you guys haven't looked at Tim's hands-on post of this thing, it is crazy how nice this watch looks. Like, I'm looking at them right now, and you're right. Like, it looks in a lot of, other than the pictures that say like, okay, Google at the top. I wish you could turn that off, by the way. But
me too.
Some of these, like, it just looks like a real watch. Crazy.
Yeah, it's a fantastic looking phone, or a smartwatch. I mean, if it was up to me, I would totally go Huawei watch all the time. And that all gold, they don't call it a neural nub or whatever Moto's calling it, but they definitely have like a texturized bezel around the display, and
it's more fluted. Yeah, it's kind of like that Rolex fluted style.
Yeah, and it's got that 2 o'clock full circle display too, no flat tire. I mean, the only thing is, if you want to pay the lowest price, that $349, all you're getting is the silver, the stainless steel, not silver, stainless steel with a leather band. And I mean, if you want to ball out a little bit and get that stainless steel mesh that they got, I mean, you're talking like $699 or $549 or something. I mean, it's an expensive piece.
So the stainless steel with the steel mesh is apparently $399, but that's still not cheap. It's when it goes gold. Oh no, so black stainless with the link is $450. And then once you hit gold, it goes up to $700
Yeah.
with that
So,
alligator bracelet.
and that alligator bracelet. I think that one looks way better than the LG Watch or Bane
yeah.
Lux or whatever. So,
Oh god, yeah, it's not even close.
yeah. So it's a gorgeous watch. It feels real good. I mean, it's not too heavy. Even that gold one, the all gold, it wasn't too heavy. All stainless steel band wasn't bad. I mean, feels great on wrist. I mean, I tried all the metal ones. You know, of course, weren't sized for me. They were way too big.
Oh,
But
right.
all the leather ones, I mean, it's a sweet looking watch. I had no complaints. I mean, and they said 2-day battery life.
Oh, they did. Okay.
It's what they're shooting for. Of course, I don't believe them.
And it's kind of small. I mean, it's smaller. It's 300 milliamp hour.
300 milliamp hour. They said they wanted to stress battery life. And I mean, the other thing is, I mean, when we're talking that much price for a timepiece, I mean, I asked them, I was like, I mean, what do you want to say to people who would say, hey man, I mean, I bought an $800 watch and it's going to be outdated in a year. Like, what's up with that? And they're like, well, we worked real close with Google to make sure that this had specs that would continue to get updates for a long time, like down the road. So while you may not be able to pass it on for generations like you can a Rolex or a Tag or something like that, I mean, the only thing they wanted to say is that it's just not made for early adopters. It's not made for it's someone fashion first and who doesn't care too much about the tech side of things.
Right.
So, and that is important to note. I mean, don't go out buying an $800 Android Wear smartwatch if you're going to be pissed off in 2 years that it doesn't run the way it used to, type of thing.
I mean, it's kind of like some of the Apple Watch people's argument was like, if I have the money to buy this, like, just let me buy it and don't shame me for it. So
right. Well, good for you. I mean, hey, if you can get it,
I mean, it's the watch I'm gonna buy. Like the Moto 360 is nice. Don't get me wrong, but this thing just looks. It just looks great, dude. It looks cool. It looks like the watch we've kind of been waiting for. And so one thing I will say is, while I like to hate all over the Watch or Bane because it's ugly, its display was awesome. And so this has got to be similar, except it's higher res. So, and I'm looking just like at some of the watch faces. Didn't you say they have like 40 watch faces preloaded on this thing?
I wasn't even able to count. It was a crap ton.
I think it's like 40. I think I saw that in like a press release.
In the press release, I think it was about 40. But then, you know, you got all the watch faces that are hitting Google Play that are interactive. I mean, they're getting so much better too. And now that the developers have more pixels to work with on these displays, you know, they can end up making those graphics better too. So
this watch looks great. By far the best, I think, out of what we've seen.
Yeah, it's probably my choice too when it comes to the Android Wear stuff.
Yeah,
no doubt.
All right, so that's available for pre-order along with the Moto 360. So if you want one of those, and in our poll that we ran, Huawei Watch was the clear second highest voted watch behind the Moto 360. So, and that takes us to our third, which didn't even come close to topping the chart. And that's Samsung's new watches, the Gear S2 and Gear S2 Classic. So I spent some time with both just before Samsung's been weird with this, right? Like they teased it at the Note 5 launch. And then Monday of this week, they announced them with some specs. Yeah, most of the specs. And then Thursday at IFA, they did like a presentation to show them off. And they talked about them and all that stuff. So anyways, they let me have some time with them. So I spent some time with both the black and white version of the Gear S2, and then there's a black version of the S2 Classic. So they're decent is kind of, I think, where I would go with these. They're Samsung's best watches yet by far. They have a rotating bezel that's really awesome to use, actually. They have buttons on their side, and navigating around it is pretty fun, especially with that rotating bezel. They don't run Android Wear, so they run Tizen, but Samsung is opening them up to all Android devices running 4.4 plus with at least 1.5 gigabytes of RAM, which is pretty much anything that's come out in the last like couple of years, right? So it's the only thing I think that holds me back a little bit is like we're watching like Huawei and Moto just like kill it with the premium designs and materials and stuff, and the Gear S2 specifically, it just felt a little cheap. It felt a little plasticky. The rubber band that comes with a silicone band felt kind of chintzy, and I didn't really like it. The Classic, on the other hand, is the more classic style looking watch, and it was nice, but it still just came off a little cheap compared to all the those other two watches I just mentioned. But Samsung is big, and they partnered with all these app developers like Nike and Twitter, and they've built all these specific apps for it. So if you're into that sort of, I kind of made mention of this, I think, in my video, that like Android Wear is all about glanceable cards and information, right? And then like the Apple Watch is all about, well, we should just put apps on all of our watches. And so Samsung's gone that approach where they're like, let's just make it app all over our watches. I'm not necessarily into that idea. I want simplicity on my watch. But anyways, so Samsung with the app route. So there's going to be like Nike Plus Running on there and S Health and all of this stuff. It's IP68, dust and water resistance, has Wi-Fi, has Bluetooth, and then it has NFC. So it will work with Samsung Pay, which is actually a pretty big deal. So you can pay for things, at least at NFC terminals with your watch, which is a big deal. Of course, you have to have a Samsung device that has Samsung Pay in order to do that. It has a really nice AMOLED display. It's full circle, dual core processor. They're nice, and they're Samsung's best watches to date. But I get why they didn't get a ton of votes. Like they're not, I don't think they're even really close to being better than the Moto 360 or that Huawei watch. So I don't know. What did you think about these when you read, saw, whatever?
I dig the idea of the Gear S2 and S2 Classic. I like, they put emphasis on that it's IP68 rating, I believe. So, I mean, you don't have to worry, like if I was rocking a Moto 360 or the Huawei watch, I would sort of probably try and wear something else if I was like going for a run or something like that. Those watches,
they're not like sport watches, really.
Yeah, exactly. But I could totally see myself rocking a Gear S2 for a jog or something like that because it has that kind of plasticky feel to it. Yeah, so I think each watch has its own place. If you can live with Tizen, even though it is workable on most Android devices running 4.1 plus, I think, then that's a total plus. That's really big of Samsung to do. I mean, they didn't have to do that. We were all expecting it was going to be exclusive to Samsung phones anyways.
We were.
Yeah. So the fact that it can work on any Android phone, it's a huge bonus. The only problem is Android Wear now works with iOS and Tizen does not. So it really just depends on the buyer, I think. I love what they showed off with the rotating bezel. I thought that was super cool. The guy yesterday was like, oh yeah, the rotating bezel is like super intuitive. And I was like, I don't know about all that, but it's definitely impressive that you guys like made it work. And it, it's better than a little digital crown that you have to spin around like a
I think they poked fun at that too, didn't they?
Probably a little bit. I mean, it's definitely more intuitive than a little bezel or a little crown. Sure. So, I mean, the UI looks solid. I still don't exactly understand Tizen's UI on the watch. It's something you just have to sort of like play with for a while, I think. But yeah, it's not very straightforward. Like it seems like inside of an app, you can swipe to other apps, but then rotate in and like, oh my God.
Yeah, so I didn't do a very good job of explaining it in my video, but like when you're at the main watch screen, if you go to the left, that's where like your notifications are. So if you had emails and texts and all that stuff. And then if you rotate to the right, that's where they call them widgets. And that's like weather and where your like fitness stuff would be and your Twitter app and your ESPN app. And so you can have all these shortcuts kind of to apps. And then, yeah, you can launch apps also. And from within apps that you can spin around and check different screens. It's kind of like the Apple Watch in that it's a bit much. Like it's just too much going on. Like you have to figure out a whole new UI and how it works. And like changing watch faces was fine, except some you can change the complications just like in the Apple Watch. And it's kind of an overwhelming experience, but it's probably like the Apple Watch. If you spend some time with it, you can figure it out. It's probably fine. They're also saying like 2 to 3 days battery life, and they're sticking to that too. I asked them straight up. I was like, "You really think you're going to get 2 to 3 days out of this?" And they're like, "Yep." So we'll see.
Dang.
Yeah. And look, I'm not saying these look like bad watches. They actually look like pretty good watches. I just think Moto and Huawei stepped it up another notch in terms of just offering a premium watch. So
yeah, I agree with that. So,
and Samsung's, we don't have a launch date either. I believe it's just mid-October they're coming out. So Moto 360 and Huawei Watch are out well before that. So yep. All right, so that's kind of watches. Like I feel like all we've been talking about all week is watch.
It's a big week for watches.
It was a big week for watches. All right, so let's switch out of that. Moto X Pure is now up for pre-order. It kicked off along with the Moto 360. And it still starts at $399 and still works on every single carrier. And it's the phone that we saw a month ago. And yeah, I get the feeling a lot of people are ordering it. People seem pretty excited, and rightfully so. I spent some more time with it at the Moto 360 event, and it just looks and feels good, just like all the other Moto phones have in the past. So pretty excited to get it in hand. We have a review unit soon, so that'll be sweet.
What color did you go with?
I actually went with like a greenish silicone back. I didn't go leather or wood.
Why no leather?
So when I was in the event, I had this table in front of me. I was like the only person at it. Everyone else was at the Moto 360, and I was like, "Oh my god, Moto X Pure in front of me!" And so I had this whole table of like all of the different colors and stuff. So I picked up the leather, and it's a Saffiano leather. So it's still Horween, but it's a Saffiano style, which means it's cross hatched. And so when you touch it, it feels kind of rough. Like it's not like you remember the Moto 360 second gen. It was just a slab of Horween leather. It was really soft and plush. This is not like that. It's kind of got a texture to it. I would imagine over time that texture will rub off enough that it'll just look cool and be soft, and it'll probably be great. But so that just turned me off a little bit. And then the wood, I've had a couple of the wood phones, and it's a cool trick. I don't necessarily love the look of wood phones. And then I picked up the silicone back, and the silicone they're using is cool. Like it's soft and kind of sticky and has just the right amount of grip to it. So I went that route. Although there's a chance I will try to order a leather one at some point as well, because that's just what happens with these Moto phones. Because it's customizing a phone is cool. You just don't get to do that very often. So
Exactly. I mean, we gotta have a leather one in house. So
I feel like we do, especially because everyone wants to know like what's up with my leather one from last year. Like, what does it look like now? Which I posted about today. So I kind of want to do that experiment again, like buy a leather one, use it, wear it in or something to see what happens.
You can go ahead and have your silicone one or whatever, and I'll rock the leather for a year.
We'll get you a leather one. Maybe we'll do that. So that's up for pre-order. Again, people seem excited, and rightfully so. I'd imagine it's probably Motorola's best flagship phone to date. So we also don't know when that's shipping. Motorola kind of told me that some of the media review units are shipping sooner than everybody else's pre-orders, and that pre-orders are probably towards the end of the month. So we'll see. They haven't announced an exact date, so who knows? All right, so while IFA was going on, CNET dropped a report suggesting that Google is going to host an event on September 29th to unveil two Nexus phones made by LG and Huawei. And nobody else has reported on this. Google hasn't announced anything. So we're just kind of going with the idea that maybe Google is going to host an event on September 29th. That date had floated around previously. I can't remember, and I apologize, whoever was the original source of a September 29th date, but that date was floating around. And then CNET sort of said, yep, that's when it's happening. I'll just say I don't know. What day is that anyway?
The 29th?
It's a Tuesday. So
seems right to me.
It does. It seems a little early, but the only reason I'm a little hesitant to believe that there's an event just yet is that like Google stopped doing events for their products a couple years ago. They ran into some bad luck. Remember the Galaxy Nexus launch kept getting bumped, and I don't want to say bad luck because it was when Steve Jobs died.
Steve Jobs died.
Yeah. So Steve Jobs died, and they just wanted to give that some time, and so they pushed it out, and they ended up doing it like Shanghai or something like that. And then the next year for the Nexus 4, they were supposed to do an event in New York. And then that giant hurricane came through and tore up the whole East Coast or whatever. So they had to cancel that. Or maybe it was just a big snowstorm or whatever. But then remember there was like flooding and stuff. It was really bad. So they canceled that. And then the next year was the Nexus 5. And I think there was rumors of an event. And I swear something happened again. And so they canceled that. And then I think they just said, screw it. So the last event I remember them doing was the Nexus 7 2013, which was also when they announced the Chromecast for the first time. So it's been a while. They could very well do an event for these Nexus phones. I just don't know. Like Google just seems like they don't really care about things like that anymore. Like they just announce stuff and post it online and post blog posts, and they let like 2 news outlets like have this stuff and talk about it, and then like that's it. So we'll see. That's obviously less than a month away. So
Yeah, I think it would be nice if they brought events back. I mean, events are it's a big thing for us and the community because the community loves, we like to get together and live blog and talk about things as it happens. I mean, and we can't do that when they post 20 press releases and we can't talk about it because we have to write it all up and we have no time to share the experience with people in the community. And that's like some of the fun.
Yeah.
So it would be cool if they brought events back. Although, yeah, they have terrible luck when it comes to
Seriously,
whenever they plan an event, something terrible happens.
Seriously, I almost feel like that's why they go. And I swear that something happened with the Nexus 5 and they canceled an event because I think we had a number of sources saying like, "There's the event. This is when it's happening. It's going down then." And then all of a sudden, like nothing, and everyone went, "What happened to the event?"
Yeah,
but I can't remember what happened there. But they've had some bad luck.
Poor guys.
So hopefully they do have a little event, and supposedly it's in San Francisco, which is awesome for us because it's an hour and a half flight away. Yeah,
it's gonna be legit.
Yeah. So adding to the idea that Nexus phones are just around the corner, Amazon dropped the Nexus 6 price to $350 today. So it had previously dropped from $650 to $499. Now it's down to $349. It's basically like half the price of what it was when it launched less than a year ago.
It's basically a free phone now. So
I mean, it pretty much is. I don't think this is just a temporary like Amazon Labor Day sale. I think that
this is
just dropping it.
Clearing inventory, like get this out of here so we can load it up with other Nexus devices.
Yeah, it definitely seems like a move where they're just getting rid of the thing. Google has not, I don't think, dropped a price yet. And I checked Motorola earlier and they haven't either. So far it's just Amazon, but it kind of seems like it's time to clear house there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's kind of Nexus news for the week.
It's big news.
It is big news. Yeah, that's only a few weeks away. So it's crazy to think that the Moto X Pure is coming out. We just got the Note 5 and S6 Edge. There's iPhones coming next week. And then there could be 2 Nexus phones right after that. There's so many good phones to choose from, either coming out or were just announced. It's a good time to be a smartphone buyer. That's for sure.
Oh, it's going to be a good year for y'all.
Yeah, definitely a good like holiday season. So, all right. In kind of random news, Google announced a new logo this week. This all happened when I was like flying to New York, so I missed most of this drama. You're going to have to fill me in. And then Verizon also, I think the next day, announced a new logo, which has kind of been funny to watch. So you were, I think I was on a plane or passed out somewhere while traveling during this Google stuff. So what happened? So Google announced a new logo. And did you like see their explanation? I haven't even caught up on it. I haven't even had a chance. So walk me through the Google logo.
Well, I don't know what you're referring to any drama or anything like that. I mean,
I feel like everyone's been talking trash about the new Google logo.
Oh, people just saying that it looks like fridge magnets that their children play with and that it's totally stupid. But, I think it looks kind of good. The last logo was pretty flat. They were following that trend of like everything was flat and there was no dimensions to anything. But
this one's still pretty flat.
This one is absolutely flat, but now it's like rounded. And so it really wasn't like a big thing. They dropped a video showing the evolution of the logo. They released a press release. They were like, you know what? We're just doing like a rebranding, because now that Google is ABC or Alphabet, I was supposed to say ABC. Yeah. And I just wrote it up. I was like, oh, hey, new Google logo. I didn't really think it was all that big of a deal. I don't think it's like some massive thing where Wall Street needs to freak out and be like, oh, dump stock is the end of Google.
I just feel like when I tuned in after it was announced, everyone was writing opinion pieces on how terrible the new Google logo was. I just didn't get it.
Yeah. Well, Matias Duarte, hey, Matias.
Your boy.
Yeah, my boy, in the floral. So he was retweeting posts that designers were doing. They were like, since when is it like headline news where a company changes their logo? Right. And I mean, it's a sort of a silly question considering that like websites that cover tech and Google are like a dime a dozen these days. So of course it's going to be news. I mean, anything Google does is news. But the fact that people took it so seriously and were like trying to really scratch their heads as to why they chose that font, you know, what makes it so different, or what are they trying to say by changing the logo? And I think people just looking way too hard at things. And
There's nothing more annoying than a font nerd.
yeah,
I'm gonna offend some font nerds, and they're serious people. But people that analyze fonts for a living, like,
I mean, hey, that's a pretty sweet gig. I mean, I wish I knew more about fonts, because it's like such a culture of,
it's crazy.
font stuff. And
I just obviously I'm not artsy enough to understand it or something, but
well, it's such a rich history too. I mean, fonts have been a part of like human culture for such a long time, so it is like a part of history, and people take it very seriously.
oh yeah,
I
you
knew.
can't mess with a font nerd. Like,
Yeah.
you don't.
Oh, absolutely. I worked at an art university for a couple of years, and
right.
I knew the kids that were in design, and they were in there to specifically learn how to create fonts. And it's like, I mean, you get a degree in making fonts? What?
It's so crazy. I just don't understand it. And I'm not trying to like completely be mean about font nerds.
Oh,
but
no, of course
it's a culture that I just do not understand. But people take it real serious.
Yeah, they do. I remember one time iOS, I think what was like iOS 7 or something came out,
Yeah.
and you said it had like a Roboto like font, and someone on the internet just trashed you.
Oh, they were so pissed that I said that. They were so mad. It was pretty fun. And that's when I went, wow, people really care about some fonts.
Yeah.
I just moved on. I just don't talk about fonts anymore because, yeah.
Yeah. So not only did Google change the font, but then they went ahead and changed pretty much branding across their applications, across desktops. I mean, now the Google Plus thing is different. Google Maps is different. I mean, really, Google got a complete rebranding, which I'm actually it's growing on me. I'm still getting used to seeing like a circular Google Plus logo on my tabs.
Yeah, it's weird.
And it doesn't really look like Google Plus. It looks like Google Star or something like that. But
did you see Groupon like harassing Google the other day? Because the G looks like Groupon's G. You should go look up.
I guess it does kind of look
Groupon's Twitter account, and like their icon for their avatar or whatever for their Twitter account is a green G, and it looks just like the blue Google G. Identical almost.
I'm sure Google will just buy these guys if they keep making any more noise.
Yeah, really. But yeah, they were tweeting at Google saying, "Hey, we'll take $7 billion for copying our logo."
Yeah, so Groupon's G reminds me a lot of Google's like the authenticate or the two-step verification or authentication. Looks just like that G, but yeah, pretty crazy. I mean, people are whatever.
The only thing I'd say, so I personally, the new logo, it is what it is. It's just a colored, kind of more roundish, more playful Google logo, I guess.
Yeah, more playful, more vibrant, more lively. I wouldn't call it childish or anything like that. I mean,
I have no problems with it. It looks fine. The only thing I don't really like is the new Google search bar if you're using, say, the Google Now launcher. It's the new colorful thing, and then the microphone icon is like 3 colors, and it looks terrible. Like
that I don't like.
That. Yeah.
They'll change that. I don't see them sticking with that for a long time. It doesn't really match with anything. Doesn't look good with anything. So
it's almost as if they did it just to let everyone know for a brief moment of time that we changed everything, and they'll change it back to gray or something.
Yeah.
All right. So there wasn't a bunch of drama. I just saw that the few people that were throwing fits about it. Okay. Verizon did change their logo also, and it's really simple, and it now is Verizon with a red check on the end, and they basically just set themselves up to be trashed on with the new thing. What did John Ledger say? John Ledger had fun with that. He was like checking off all of this stuff that he has a problem with Verizon, but
I guess he's a troll.
He's a troll. It's just, it's another company logo. I'm not offended by it either. Don't really have an opinion on it. It says Verizon in really simple, plain text, and there's a red check on the end. Okay.
Couldn't they have like taken that check and sort of scrunched it in to look like a V or something? I just feel like I don't even understand the check. I don't know enough about Verizon's history as to why they have a check. I assume they have a good darn reason for it, but I don't think it looks all that good. Like, I think if we were having to compare, if we were total font nerds and we had to say, oh, what do you like better, Google or Verizon's logo? I was like, oh, dude, Verizon's garbage. Like, they spent 2 seconds.
Let's see. The new brand identity takes the best elements of Verizon's heritage, represented by its colors and the Verizon checkmark. Oh, sorry, checkmark. They actually quoted that, and transforms them for a new era. At its most basic level, the new logo is a visual statement that honors our history and reflects an identity that stands for simplicity, honesty, and joy in a category rife with confusion, disclaimers, and frustration. It's a cleaner, more human design, and the checkmark, the universal symbol for getting things done, uniquely expresses the reliability of Verizon.
Go F yourself. That's ridiculous.
That's exactly what they said.
That sounds like something Kanye would say about himself. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So checkmark means a whole lot of stuff to Verizon, apparently.
Apparently it does.
So it's important to keep the checkmark. With that being said, turn the checkmark into a V, like a cool swooshy V, and it's the best of both worlds. Then you don't have to have some like awkward check mark next to just pure like so bland looking text font Verizon. I don't like it.
Someone in the chat just said the check is the Verizon logo means check your bill.
Bill, I like it.
Yeah. So there was logo changes this week, and yeah, apparently that's a really big deal. Like you don't change your logo, font nerds will eat you alive.
Yeah, I think it's only a big. Imagine if Apple did it. Like I don't mean I'm sure. Like I know Apple has rebranded themselves, but like if today Apple changed their logo, the internet would explode.
Yeah, but it would be this is the best font ever. Oh my God, this font is so great.
Yanni
font nerds breaking it down in grids. Like, look at this curve. I don't know what font nerds talk about. I've just seen their
43-degree angles.
Yeah, they're like gridded out font things where they touch on points. And it's so funny. Oh yeah, if Apple changed the font of Apple, it would be just oh my God, fonts. Apple's so great at fonts. Anyway. Okay, completely flipping subjects now because I just feel like we have to talk about them because Sony actually did a great job. The Xperia Z5, Z5 Compact, and Z5 Premium were announced at IFA, and these phones look great. Look, they look like all of Sony's phones for the last 15 years.
True.
Specs-wise, though, they sound pretty awesome. So Xperia Z5 is their new flagship. Xperia Z5 Compact is the flagship small version, and the Z5 Premium is this crazy 4K. Has this crazy 4K display. Let's see, the Z5 and Z5 Compact, I believe, are coming out in October. Is that correct? And then the Premium is November, I think. But so Sony upped everything. Well, they're using Snapdragon 810 still, 3 gig of RAM, 2 gig of RAM, depending on the phone. And they have class leading battery life in everything they do. So they're saying 2 days battery life. And I believe that they probably do get 2 days of battery life. They are waterproof and dust tight, and they don't mess around. Like they're waterproof and dust tight. Let's see, 1080p and 720p on the Z5 and Z5 Compact, but their cameras. So Sony busted out some new 23 megapixel sensor that no one else has. And they're supposed to be like the best cameras ever. We'll see. Because in the past, Sony, even though they're using their own sensors, you would think they would use them the best. They haven't been able to. So hopefully they've done it this time around. I'm pretty excited for these two phones, except of course they will never.
Yeah, they're not going to be here. Yeah, someone asked, can we expect the Z5 to be on Verizon, or do we have to wait for the Z5V? And I was like, I mean, even if the Z5V exists, it's not going to be the Z5.
It'll be some kind of knockoff version of the Z4 that they'll call the Z5V.
Yeah, that's what I think. I mean, the Z4V wasn't even nearly as good as the Z4, if I'm not mistaken, in terms of specs. There was definitely something big different about it.
No, so the Z4V, it's weird. So the Z4 was just a stupid phone that Sony announced that barely upgraded anything and overheated, and it was just terrible. And then Verizon announced the Z4V, which was actually upgraded slightly. It had a quad HD display versus 1080p. And like even the regular Z5 only has a 1080p display. But so Verizon talked them into wireless charging and a quad HD display. And that phone was supposed to be out in mid-August. And people told us long ago, like it's delayed at least till September, and it may not even come out. And, we're in September now and it's still not available. So I actually have no idea what the hell Verizon's going to do. Because, yeah, they created the Z4V that was actually upgraded. But then the Z5 doesn't have a quad HD display or wireless charging. So,
well, then maybe they will. Maybe they'll just bring in the Z5 Premium, and make that the Verizon model. I mean, wouldn't that be great? I'm sure. I mean, these are actually the first Xperia devices I've even been tempted to at least even look at. So, I mean, they still look like Xperia devices with bezels and all this stuff. But, I mean, 4K triluminous display, like, give me a break. I mean, I at least got to see it.
Right. So, like, you feel like you just at least need to get one in hand just to look at what a 4K smartphone display looks like.
Right.
So, yeah, these phones won't come here. If you want them, like you kind of just have to be a smartphone geek who imports phones that you can't get anywhere. Like we'll for sure get the Z5 Compact because the Compact series has been one of my favorite lines of phones ever. So we'll get that for sure. The Z5, I can't promise that because we just tend to focus on the US phones. And if it's not coming to the US, we probably don't care. We'll see. We'll think about that. The Compact we'll probably get for sure. And then, the Premium, it's really tempting. Because, I'm with you. I want to see a 4K display.
Even if it's triluminous.
Even if it's their terrible triluminous tech, these phones look great. And Sony always does fun colors. I saw a video of the Z5 Compact in this crazy yellow, and I kind of wanted it. It looks like pee, but it kind of looks cool, too, and I sort of want it. So they announced those, and everyone got really excited. And we just haven't talked about it much because, number one, we're not at IFA. Number two, they're not coming here. So it's hard for us to really get super excited.
True.
Yeah. Let's see. So UpLeaks has been tweeting pictures of a Motorola phone called the Moto X Force, which also could fall under the codename Bounce, which also could end up as the Droid Turbo 2, because we're pretty sure there's going to be a Droid Turbo 2. But anyways, they said the phone has it's basically a 5.5-inch Quad HD display, Snapdragon 810, 3 gig RAM, that probably the same 21 megapixel camera that's in the Pure, 3760 milliamp hour battery. I'm wondering if they mean 3670, but and then they also mentioned that it's shatterproof. Like what the hell does that mean? You have any guesses as what a shatterproof phone is? I thought everyone that had Gorilla Glass was like, it's shatterproof.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they're just throwing it on as a duh thing. I don't know. I mean, maybe the phone won't break into any pieces at all ever. Even if you crush it with a truck.
What kind of technology is out there that would make a display actually fully shatterproof? We don't have it, do we? I can't think of.
Well, I mean, I thought you were going to ask what technology would make a display actually shatter, and I was like, a hammer, I guess. I don't know, but yeah, shatterproof.
Is there some new type of Gorilla Glass that we don't know that is shatterproof? Maybe.
Well, I think. What do we mean by shatter? I mean, Gorilla Glass will crack, but I've never actually seen it chip or shatter.
I'm thinking shatterproof means it won't crack or fully.
No, see, I see shatter as in multiple pieces, which I don't see cell phones do anymore. I only see them actually crack or spider web and all that.
Yeah.
I don't see them chip or shatter though.
I guess I'm just thinking because what you're saying, they must mean it won't crack. Is all I can think. Because otherwise, this is nothing new, right? But because they keep tweeting shatterproof, they must mean that it won't crack.
I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I mean that's all we really know. It looks kind of like a Pure Edition, but a little bulkier with a weird kind of ridge around it, which might be sort of so you can drop it and it won't crack or anything. And there's some weird sensors on the bottom of the front of the phone too. So it's definitely a different phone than anything we've seen.
Yeah, it's a phone for you where, if you have the granite countertops and you place it on the screen side down, it won't shatter.
No shatter.
Yeah, because the display does not touch the bottom. Yeah. So
this could very well be.
Yeah, it's possible. It's a handsome looking Moto phone, I suppose.
Yeah, not too bad at all.
Kind of boring looking. I like the wallpaper and stuff. It just looks kind of boring.
I'm with you.
It's black and gray.
I mean, I guess if we get a new Droid Turbo, people will get excited.
So. Turbos are good as long as they get updates.
Yeah, no capacitive buttons, so that's a big deal.
Huge.
All right, so at the beginning of the week, the BlackBerry Venice, actually it was over last weekend and we wrote it up on Monday. The BlackBerry Venice leaked like crazy, like a full hands-on set of pictures of the BlackBerry Venice. And Well, we talked about this last week that it's just another one of those areas where I don't get it, but people are super excited. So I'm just going to shut up about like not liking it and just let people have their day in the sun of loving the Venice and just let it be what it is. People are super excited about this thing. It doesn't look that bad in these pictures. I mean, it has a slide up keyboard and it's got a pretty big display on the front with on-screen nav buttons. It's got a weird button configuration on the side, but has a big old camera that says fast focus like around the ring. It's kind of funny. Dual LED flash, micro SD support.
It actually looks like Motorola designed it, if you ask me.
It does a little bit, yeah.
With that kind of carbon fiber looking back and all that. I mean, BlackBerry had that first, but they had that. But it actually, like the backside there where it says the OIS fast focus, it looks like the backside of an old Motorola phone or like an old Turbo or it's cool. I'm kind of in the same boat as you. Like I'm not gonna go out there and proactively try and purchase a BlackBerry device in 2015, but it is cool, and I think that as long as it's running Android and people love choices, and anyone who wants a physical QWERTY keyboard in the year 2015, they have this option now, and that's fantastic. It's better than that Snap-on QWERTY keyboard for the Note 5 and whatever Samsung made. So,
which you'll probably never be able to buy, but
no.
Yeah, I mean, people don't. If you want a physical keyboard, you don't even have an option these days, right? Unless you want to buy a BlackBerry, because I think you can still buy Blackberries.
Sure.
And we asked people. We ran a poll finally, and 54% said yes, they are actually interested in this phone. So
yeah, so we should just probably change to rimlife.com or something.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
So BlackBerry, make the stupid phone already, because people are actually excited about it. It, like, before the hype dies, make this stupid phone so people can get in their hands and see that you guys made another bad phone, and then the hype can die. BlackBerry.
Death to the hype.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think that's all I had for topics. Want to talk about anything else? Any apps or games or anything? You been playing anything lately other than Fallout Shelter?
Yeah, I do have one app that I do want to talk about. Is merely just a extension, if you will. It's a watch face app for Android Wear, and it is called Ranger Military Watch Face. It's not exactly new. It's got 10,000 downloads, solid 4.3 rating on Google Play. But I'll try and enhance the photo here, and I'll turn up the screen brightness so everyone can see it. I'll put it up to the webcam here, but it's got that kind of classy looking old school regular dial look to it. Looks like a watch, but I put it on the Moto 360 and it actually looks really good. So once the Huawei Watch or Moto 360 V2 2015 second gen comes in, I'm totally going to load it up on there. And I love playing with new watch faces. There was another one called Mystical Forest that I actually really liked. So I love playing with new watch faces, and anytime I can find a good one, I try and share it. So this one, I think it was 99 cents or $1.99, Ranger watch face on Google Play. Give it a check if you like. And that's it for apps. Really, for games, I've just been playing Fallout Shelter still.
That's sort of what I figured.
Yeah.
I was trying to think. I swear there was something new I was using while I was traveling, and I can't think of it. Whatever. Maybe it was Runkeeper, got a new update, but it changed on iOS, not Android. They changed the UI.
Google Play Music and Google Photos have updates. That's worth noting.
As of today, you mean?
As of today, at least I just checked my device and they have updates.
Oh, yeah. I think they did get updates. I have no idea. They're probably just changing icons and logos or something.
I'm always the last person to get Google updates anyway. So
yeah, well, the music update was today for sure. And
thank goodness.
The photos might have been also.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I don't have any. Oh yeah, Keep got an update today. Slides, Sheets, Inbox, Docs. There's a whole bunch of them got updated today.
So it's Google App Update Friday now, not Wednesday.
Yeah, apparently, Update Friday. I would imagine they're probably changing all the icons and stuff. To Inbox too. No, nothing really notable.
Scheduling note for anyone listening: we will be taking Labor Day off.
Oh yeah, we're not going to be here Monday. in case you're wondering, because you're not going to be at your jobs Monday, so we probably won't be here at ours.
Yeah. So if you wake up Monday morning, don't be disparaged. We'll be back Tuesday. Right there.
I got signed out.
Oh, well, it says we're still live, so.
Just say we're still alive. I have no idea. I just got signed out of Google, and so I had to sign back in. So that probably just ruined the whole feed or whatever. Anyways, like I said, we're right at the end. So
Thank God.
yeah. All right. Any last words before we head into the long weekend?
No, have a fantastic 3-day weekend, everybody, if you can still hear me.
Yeah, exactly. Be safe out there. Droid Life Show episode 91. Thanks for joining us. Peace.
Peace.